Hello everyone. This is the first lesson of the video editing course. You will learn how to create a project, import files into it, edit them, and export the final video. All in one lesson. Right now you see the project folder. So far, it only contains one folder named Source. I copied all the original video files that I shot for this project into it. We're creating a new folder named App. You can give this folder any name. I'm used to naming it App, which stands for Adobe Premiere Project. This is where the Adobe Premiere Pro project and all the temporary project folders will be stored. We launch Premiere. Upon launch, we see the program's Start window, where we can either open recent projects we've worked on or create a new project. We're creating a new project. Click the New Project button. In the top field, we enter the project name. Click on this button and select the folder we just created. You can leave the other settings in this window as they are. Click OK. When you launch Adobe Premiere Pro, your interface may look different from mine because I've already customized it to my liking. You can adjust the program's windows to suit your own preferences. At the top, there's a panel where you can switch between different interface views. Right now, the editing view is selected. You can choose the color view for working with color correction or the audio view for working with sound. The most common view we use is editing, and you can customize it as you wish. This is the project window where all the original assets will be located: videos, music files, sound files, and possibly photos. Everything will be stored here. I find it more convenient for this window to not be here. I click and drag the window by its title, and now I can move it wherever I like. For example, if I want it to be here, I place it here. Or, if I want it to share space with another window, like Effect Controls, I drag it over to the Effect Controls panel and drop it in the top bar. Now both windows are in the same space, and you can switch between them like tabs. If you don't need a window, you can hide it. For example, I don't use the Source panel. I right-click on the panel's title and select Close Panel. Later, if I need a window that I've closed, I can always find it in the Window menu. Here, you can see all the possible windows in the interface. And here's the Source Monitor window I just closed. I select it, and the window appears back on my screen. Let's close it again. Actually, I don't really need this interface panel at the top either, because I don't use it often. It takes up screen space, and I need as much space as possible. I want the image I'm working with to be larger, so I right-click on this panel and close it. Later, if I want to switch to a different interface layout, I can go to the Window, then Workspaces, and select any other layout. You can also resize any panel by dragging the boundary between them. If you create an interface layout that's comfortable for you, you can save it by clicking the Save As button. You give it a name, and you can return to it in any project. Now let's import the original files shot for the project into Premiere. There are several ways to do this. First, you can select File from the menu, then Import, and a File Explorer window will open where you can choose the files to add to your project. These could be video, audio, or photos. I'll click Cancel for now. You can access the same File Explorer window not only through the menu, but also by double-clicking in the project window. Again, I'll click Cancel. There's also another method. I simply go into Windows Explorer, navigate to the folder with my shot files, select them all, and drag them into the project window. This project window is similar to a folder in Windows Explorer. Here, I can organize my files, sort them into different folders, and create subfolders. Today, we'll just work with a general list of files. You can switch between List View and Icon View. The icons are loading now. Some people might find it more convenient to view their project materials as icons, but I prefer the List View. However, I don't like that there are so many columns with information here. I don't use all this information, and I want to have fewer columns. To customize the view of this table, I right-click on the column headers and select Metadata Display. A window opens for configuring the columns. I expand the top group where all the currently displayed columns are checked. I only need a minimal number of columns, so I click twice to make sure no columns are shown. Then I select the columns I need: Label for color coding clips, Frame Rate, and 2 more columns: Video Usage and Audio Usage. I click OK, And now there are fewer columns, making the interface less cluttered with information. Now let's create the first sequence. This is where we compile clips to later export as the final video. I take any file and drag it onto this icon. A sequence is created, and we can see it in this window. The window is highlighted in blue and is called the timeline. It contains one clip, the very clip we dragged to create this sequence. In the project window, you can see both the sequence and the clip it was made from. They share the same name. The benefit of creating a sequence this way is that the sequence automatically takes on the same settings as the original clip. The clip has a resolution of 3840 by 2160, which is 4K, and the sequence also has the same 4K resolution. The frame rate is 25 frames per second. To the right of the file, in the video usage and audio usage columns, you'll see numbers 1 and 1. This means that the clip has already been used once in the project, in one of the edits. If we drag it again and use it a second time in the same sequence, the numbers will change to 2 and 2. This way, when reviewing your list of clips, you can easily see which ones have been used and which haven't. Perhaps you might have forgotten a clip, and this will help you notice it. To avoid confusion between a sequence and a clip, you can rename the sequence. To do this, I click on the sequence name once with the left mouse button, and now I can give it a new name. There's another way to rename a sequence or a clip. We right-click on the sequence and select Rename. Again, you can enter a new name. I'll leave the name as it was. Now let's look at the second method of creating a sequence. I'll delete this sequence. I make sure the project window is active. You'll see a blue frame around the window. The sequence is selected, and I press Delete. Now the sequence has been removed from the project, and the clip that previously had ones in the usage columns now has nothing. This means it is no longer used in any sequence. Another way to create a sequence is by either selecting File from the menu and then New Sequence, or by right-clicking on an empty space in the project window. However, this area is not truly empty if there's a clip there. Right-clicking on a clip will open a menu for managing that clip. But if I right-click to the left of the file name, the correct menu will appear, where you'll find the New Item option. Choose Sequence, and the Sequence Settings window will appear. At the bottom, you'll see the field for naming the sequence. At the top, we can choose one of the preset settings. I usually select any preset here because I will later change all the settings as needed. To do this, I go to the Settings tab. In the drop-down menu, I can either select another preset or choose the top option, Custom, Manual Settings. It's important to set the correct frame rate here, the frame rate your final video will have. You can also set the resolution. Let's set it to 4K, which matches the resolution of the clips we imported into the project. The fields below can be left as they are. One of the fields refers to square pixels, so we leave that as is, without any adjustments. No changes are needed for the other settings either. Click OK. A new sequence is now created with the name we specified, and currently there are no clips in it yet. We can take any clip and drag it here onto the timeline. When you drag a clip, it consists of two rectangles, the top one and the bottom one. You can place them far apart, but it's best to position them so they are right next to each other, here in the middle. We've dragged the clip, and now it's on the timeline. This is the start of the edit, the mix of clips from which we'll later export the final video. I can take the next clip and drag it after the previous one, or I can drag it before the previous ones. I can also select a series of clips and drag them all at once. I'll leave them off to the side for now. So, we now have an initial edit, a sequence of clips. To preview what we've created, I press the spacebar, and playback begins. Both video and audio are playing. But if I don't want the audio to distract me, I press the M button. The button turns green, which means the audio track, the bottom track, won't play. Now everything plays in silence, and we can preview the footage. The spacebar starts playback, and pressing it again stops playback. I can select clips with the mouse, press Ctrl-C, then use the End key to move to the end of the sequence. I press Ctrl-V repeatedly to paste the clips. I return to the beginning by pressing the Home button. Now it looks like a large sequence, as if there are many different clips already laid out on the timeline. How can we navigate the timeline? We already know that the spacebar starts and stops playback. If we want to see the entire edit at once, we press the minus button to zoom out, allowing us to view the entire sequence. If we want to see each clip in more detail, we press the plus button to zoom in, focusing on the area where the cursor is located. The cursor is this blue line. If I press minus, move the cursor to this part, and then press plus, we zoom in on that specific clip. So, the plus and minus buttons help us zoom in and out of the entire sequence. To move around with the mouse, we click on this ruler. Clicking elsewhere doesn't do anything, but when we click on the ruler with the left mouse button, the cursor moves to a new spot. The timecode here shows the current position of the cursor. The first 2 digits represent hours, the next 2 are minutes, the next 2 are seconds, and the last 2 are the frame number. I'll zoom in using the plus button. If I want to move frame by frame, I press the right arrow key on the keyboard. By pressing it, I move 1 frame forward, frame by frame. If I want to go back a frame, I press the left arrow. If I press the down arrow, I jump to the end of the current clip and the beginning of the next one. Pressing the down arrow again skips me to the following clip. This way, I can jump between the boundaries of clips. The up arrow moves me back. Home brings me back to the very start of the sequence. The end button takes me to the very end of the sequence. We can drag clips with the mouse. Let's say I want the second to last clip to become the last one. I grab it with the mouse and drag it to the end. I can also select both of these clips with the mouse and drag them together to close the gap. Let's go to the beginning of the sequence. There's a gap at the start and another one here. When we start playback, there's a black screen in that spot. Nothing is there. If we want to remove the gap, we can zoom out, select all the clips with the mouse, and drag them over. But that's a bit complicated. It's easier if we right-click on the gap between the clips. If I click above or below, nothing happens. But if I click directly on the gap between the clips, a menu appears with the option Ripple Delete. I click it, and the gap closes. The same can be done at the start. I right-click and select Ripple Delete. Now we know how to rearrange clips and remove gaps. What other tools do we have? I press the plus key to zoom in. I can cut this clip and turn it into 2 clips. To do this, I use the razor tool. I select it, and wherever I click, the clip will be cut. Let's say I want to cut the clip where the cursor is. A single click with the mouse, and the clip is cut in 2. However, the razor tool is still active. To avoid accidentally cutting other clips, I switch to the selection tool, the arrow. Now when I click on clips, no cutting occurs. And now 1 clip has become 2. I can delete the first part of the clip by pressing the delete key. That clip is now removed. Now let's move on to this clip. I zoom in. The character doesn't appear in the frame immediately. At first, there's some preparation, and then the character appears in the frame. Let's say I want to remove the initial preparation so that the character is in the frame from the very beginning of the clip. To do this, I need to trim the start of the clip. I bring the mouse to the start of the clip, and the mouse pointer changes. It was a white arrow before, but here it turns into a red arrow. I hold the mouse button and drag the beginning of the clip to the right. Wherever I release, the clip will be trimmed. I want to drag the start of the clip right to the cursor where the character is already in the frame. That's it. The beginning of the clip, where the character wasn't present, is gone. If I've already trimmed part of the clip, I can restore it. I grab the mouse, drag it to the left, and the trimmed part of the clip returns. A great convenience is that I can position the cursor with frame accuracy using the right and left arrow keys. I select the frame that should be the very first frame of the clip. Then I drag the edge of the clip to the cursor. The clip is trimmed with frame accuracy. A very useful tool is the magnet snap. When I drag the edge of the clip to the cursor, it snaps to it, ensuring that I've trimmed the beginning of the clip precisely to the frame. If the snap is deactivated, the clip won't stick to the cursor, and I can't be sure that when I release the mouse, the clip will be trimmed exactly at the cursor's position. It's much more convenient when the magnet snap is activated. So we click on it, and now elements will stick to each other. The same goes if I want to move a clip. I drag it to the end of another clip, and it snaps into place. The same applies to the end of a clip. I can trim the ending of the clip. I click with the mouse, drag it to the left, and now the end of the clip is trimmed. When we trim a clip at the beginning or the end, empty space appears on the timeline. To close that gap, we can either drag the clips with the mouse to remove the gap, or, as we already know, use the ripple delete function. However, if I want to restore the trimmed part of the clip and try to drag the edge of the clip to the left, I won't be able to because there's no empty space. There's another clip in the way. To restore the trimmed beginning, I need to create some empty space here. To do this, I zoom out by pressing the minus key, select all the clips, and drag them away. I move this clip as well. I can't extend the clip here since this is the very beginning, but I can extend the end of the clip because there's free space. When another clip is in place, I can't extend the end, but when it's empty, I can extend the previous clip. When we trim part of a clip or need to move clips to make space to restore a section, these actions can be complex and inconvenient. However, Adobe Premiere Pro offers a more efficient way to do these tasks. Let's remove the gap. For instance, if I want the clip to start from this frame where we can see the edge of the girl, I hold down the Control key and move the mouse to the edge of the clip. When Control is pressed, the mouse pointer turns yellow. If I release Control and move the mouse, it turns red again. But with Control pressed, the pointer is yellow, which means when I trim the beginning of the clip and release the mouse, not only will the start of the clip be cut, but the gap will close as well. All clips following this one will shift left, leaving no gap. Now, the clip starts with the girl, and there are no gaps on the timeline. To restore a trimmed section, we use the same method. There's no need to create space to return the trimmed part. I hold Control, click the mouse, and drag it to the left. When I release the mouse, all the clips on the right shift to make room for that part of the video. The clip is restored, and none of the other clips were affected. All the clips to the right moved over. The same works for trimming the end of a clip. I trim the end, and the following clips move along, or I restore the end, and all the clips shift back. It's a very convenient way to edit videos. There are other ways to edit clips using keyboard shortcuts. Let's restore the beginning of the clip. The girl appears in the frame at this moment, and I want to trim the first part of the clip. I simply press the Q key on the keyboard. That's it. The beginning is trimmed, and the girl is in the frame throughout the entire clip. But if I want to restore the trimmed part of the clip, I use the Control key and the mouse to bring it back. Now let's trim the end of the clip. I want all the remaining part of the clip to be cut after the cursor. I press the W key on the keyboard. Done. At this moment, the cut occurred. If I want to restore the trimmed part, I press Control and drag the mouse to the right. Now you have the tools for editing your clips. Let's learn how to export the final video. Before exporting the final video, let's make sure the timeline panel is selected, meaning there should be a blue border around the panel. We select File from the menu, then Export, and then Media. This opens the export window. Here, in the Format drop-down list, H.264 should be selected. In this drop-down, I choose any of the presets that contains Match Source. Any preset will work because I will change its settings later. This is the file name that our final video will have. I click once and then specify the folder and file name where the final video will be stored. I go here, Create a new folder. You can choose any folder. I enter the created folder and specify a different name for the final video. I click Save. The file itself doesn't exist yet, but Premiere remembers how we want to name it. If I want only the video to be exported, I uncheck the box for audio. If I want only the audio to be exported, I uncheck the box for video. But most often, I export both video and audio. Here, there are several tabs. Among these tabs, I am only interested in the video tab. This is the frame resolution. If I wanted to change it, I could uncheck the box and edit these values. However, I create the sequence with the same settings as the final video, so I don't change anything. I keep the box checked. The same goes for the frame rate. I could change it, but I leave it unchanged. I scroll down. This checkbox means that the video quality will be slightly higher, but the rendering process will take longer. So if you have time and want the video to be of better quality, check this box. If speed of export is more important to you, uncheck this box. The rendering will be faster. I scroll down. The next tab that interests us is bitrate settings. Here in the drop-down list, There are several options. I suggest choosing VBR 1 pass or VBR 2 pass. 1 pass means that the quality will be slightly worse. 2 pass means that the quality will be higher. I choose 2 pass. Here, you can adjust the bitrate at which the video will be encoded. You can regulate this parameter either using the slider or by entering a specific number. For 4K video, YouTube recommends using a bitrate of 53 megabit per second. Changing the bitrate also changes the file size. The lower the bitrate, the smaller the file. The higher the bitrate, the larger the file. The last setting that interests us is this checkbox. Use maximum render quality. It has the same effect as the checkbox we previously checked, called render at maximum depth. Use maximum render quality does the same thing. It makes your video of higher quality, but the rendering takes more time. At the time when I was making this course, the program's interface was slightly different. However, the essence of the settings remains the same. You will easily find the same settings and apply them to achieve the same result. Once you have selected all the necessary settings, you click the Export button, and the file export begins. Depending on your computer's power, the complexity of the project, and the video resolution, this process can take anywhere from a few seconds to several hours. When the export is finished, the export window closes. We can then go to the File Explorer and locate the file we created. Congratulations! You have completed the entire editing journey, from creating a project to producing the final video. Let's cover a couple more topics. The settings in Adobe Premiere Pro. Most of the settings can be found under the menu item Edit Preferences. Here, you can switch between different tabs to configure various options for the program. For example, in this tab, we can adjust the brightness of the interface. An important tab that I want to tell you about is the Autosave tab. By default, it's set to, I believe, 10 or 15 minutes. I recommend setting a shorter interval so that the autosave process occurs more frequently. Even 5 minutes of work can be very valuable, and it's frustrating to lose them. Premiere has a tendency to crash sometimes and may not save your project. Therefore, first of all, set this value to a smaller number. I have mine set to 5 minutes. Also, make sure to save your project frequently, Ctrl+S, to prevent losing your work. And secondly, periodically after completing a large section of work, click on the File Save As option and save the project with a new name. For example, I will now save a new version and name it version 2. In the project folder, I now have 2 versions, the first and the second. In the editing process, it can happen that you accidentally press the delete button while a segment of the cut or a sequence is selected, and later you may notice that part of your work is missing. If you save different versions of the project, you can open the previous version and copy the lost segment back into the latest version of the project. Super! We've tackled today's topic. Congratulations! Now you are professional editors. But be sure to come to the next lesson as well, because you'll become even more professional. Thank you for watching until the end. Please leave a comment and thumbs up. It will help promote this video. See you in the next lesson.